before we start with investigation, we have to calm down our mind first. Our mind has to be sharp, like our eyes have to be sharp. When we just wake up from sleep, then it takes a little while to adjust our eyes so that we can see clearly. And it's the same thing with our inner eyes. So before we start investigation, we have to be able to set the mind to peace. We have to set it to a state where the mind can rest, where the mind is objective, before we actually start with investigation. The mind has to be able to stay put on one object for at least 10 or 15 minutes without being distracted by thoughts or opinions or views, in order that the investigation becomes successful. So, if we are not at the stage where our mind can rest on one object, and with samadhi we train to rest the mind on one object, be it either the breath at the tip of the nose, just being aware that the breath comes in or the breath goes out. If you can stay there with the breath for 10 or 15 minutes without being distracted, then we can start with investigation. We have two ways of getting our mind calm. This is either with a mental repetition of the word Buddha, 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 until there is nothing else than the word Buddha, until the Buddha echoes in our heart and we can listen to it like a chant in a cathedral. Or when the mind becomes quiet, with concentrating on the breath, on the tip of the nose, just knowing that the breath comes in and the breath goes out, and being completely peaceful with just being able to stay put with the breath. Samadhi, there are three different forms of samadhi. One is the form that is called Khanika Samadhi or momentary samadhi. That just means we go for a very, very short moment deep into the deep state of samadhi, into the state of Appana Samadhi, and come back. And normally when we come back, we are the state of Upachara Samadhi or Access Samadhi. Access Samadhi is a state that I like to describe as when we are in the midst of the rain or storm or hail, and then we see a glass house, and we open the door to the glass house, and we close the door behind us. Then we still see the rain and hail and thunder, but it doesn't affect us anymore. This is the state of Access Samadhi. Once we leave that glass house, then everything else is the same, so the hail and the storm will hit us very hard. So the difference is that we still see in the state of Upachara Samadhi, we are still able to experience or to see all the things, but we are not touched by it anymore. And before we even start with investigation, we have to attain to that state for a little while. So we have to enter the state of samadhi before we actually can do some useful investigation of the body or of the other khandhas. So please remember this. Before you do investigation, first get the mind calm. Otherwise, if the mind is not calm, if it jumps here and jumps there, then our investigation that we are doing is pretty much worthless. It will not cut down. It will not remove the leaves from the tree so that we can see the stems of greed and hate and delusion. And that's what we are normally facing. We are facing the leaves, and because of all the leaves, we do not see the tree or the stem of the tree. Or with other words, because of all the trees, we do not see the forest. So, samadhi is a very important thing. Samadhi is an important thing to sharpen our awareness, to sharpen our mindfulness, and creating or developing the ability to stay put at one object, being the object of the breath or the mental repetition of the word Buddha. So we have to train our mind, and we have to put all our effort just into the ability to stay put at the object. That means the effort is not actually pushing the word Buddha or pushing the breath, but being aware of. It's important to notice the difference of the object and of the one who observes or knows about the object. Because the knowing nature of the citta, this is the true state of the citta. The true state of the citta is the knowing nature of the citta. So, we have to find out, or we have to develop the ability to see that clearly. The one thing is the knowing nature of the citta, and the other thing is the object being known of. Or, when we talk about the observer and the object observed. When we look out, when we open our eyes and look at a tree or look at animals, then we are very clear aware of that we are observing the animal and how it is behaving. We are not going to push the animal or the observed object around. And the same thing is when we do the samadhi. We just observe the breath going in and breath going out. We just observe the mental repetition of the word Buddha. We are not going to change the word Buddha. We are not making it fast, or we are not making it slow. We are not making it deep. We are not making it shallow. We just observe that it becomes shallow, or that it is deep, or that it is fast, or that it is slow. And the same thing with the breath. The breath that is shallow, or the breath that is deep, or the breath that is subtle, or the breath that is coarse. We just observe that fact. So we don't try to push the object. The object is the object observed. This must be clear. We are not forcing the object to be gentle. We are not forcing the object to be subtle. We are just observing the quality of the object and staying with the object observed. That gives the change, or that gives rise to the change of the object. Because when we observe, when we stay put of the word of Buddha, then it falls after a while, it falls down into the heart. And when it falls down in the heart, then the heart itself repeats the word Buddha. And then we can listen at ease to the chant of the word Buddha. Or, with the same thing with the breath, once we can stay put at the breath, then the breath just comes in and just goes out. And we completely contented and satisfied stay with the observation of the breath. Once all the thoughts are removed by this our meditation object, and the mind gets quiet and mind gets peaceful, just automatically, just because we are doing the work. Not because we are forcing it. The result will come with the work. If we dig out earth, then when we do the work, then after a while there will be a hole. The result of the work will be the hole in the earth. And that's the same thing. The result of our work will be the peacefulness and happiness state of mind. That is just the result or the byproduct of our work. Our work is just, in the worldly terms, is just to dig out earth. And in the spiritual sense, it's just to stay put at this one object, be it the Buddha or be it the breath, and not letting the mind go out, not letting the mind wandering out in the past or in the future, in what happened right now, or in any kind of interpretation what is happening. Any kind of interpretation, any kind of so-called insights are not what we are looking for. It's not what we are after. We are after that we can stay with the mind, with the object observed. This must be clear. As a result of this continuous work, and the effort is just slightly pulling the mind when we know it has wandered off, not bothering us about where it wandered. We just, the moment we see that it wandered off, we just put it back on the object. That be the breath or the word Buddha. We don't investigate where it went, because this is just the nature of the mind. We don't want to enforce that. We want to enforce to be able that the mind is able to stay at one object. So we just slightly bring it back and say, this is your work. Here's the point of work. Or here is the work that we are doing. When we do that for a while, and when we can stay there, then the mind becomes calm and happy and peaceful. And when we enter the state of access samadhi, then the mind will be peaceful, will be completely contented. And it is a difference that is noticeable. Once we enter, that means we open the door, and we do not close it in front of us, but we close it behind us. Then we stay in this glass house, or in the safe area, or when you call it, you can call it also a haven, whatever you want. And once we get out, we get back into the storm. So the difference is very clear, describable. The difference between non-samadhi and some access samadhi is very clearly describable. Once we get out, we get all the impulses, all the impact from the outside world, from the outside senses. When we are in, we just experience the senses as they are. So, if we continue our work while we are in the state of access samadhi, our breath becomes finer and finer and finer until it completely disappears. Once it completely disappears, we know that it disappears, and we switch to the one who knows that it disappears, the knowing nature of the heart. And what then happens is that the mind gets one-pointed. At first time, the body disappears from our senses. Once the body disappears from our senses, the whole world ceases to exist. And this is an experience that most of the people call a wonder. Also, Tanaja Mahabodha says about this kind of samadhi is the nibbana of the little man. What does it mean? The nibbana of the little man, anybody who puts his effort into this kind of work will receive that preview or nibbana of the little man, what is nothing else than the preview of nibbana. This is the deep state of samadhi, or called also in Pali, appana samadhi. It is not necessary for us, if we want to do investigation, because investigation is the only thing that cuts down the fetters of greed, hate and delusion. It's not really necessary to go into the deep state of samadhi, but it is very, very helpful. Not only because the work of investigation is a very tough work, is a very hard work, is a work that takes the most of us, and sometimes we just get doubts, and sometimes we just are disappointed, or sometimes we're just disheartened. So when we can go into the state of Appana Samadhi, where we can experience the preview of nibbana, where we can see that everything else ceases, but one thing remains, that is the knowing nature of the heart, then we can get some energy, then we can get some courage to go on with our practice. Same thing, but the impact is not so strong, is with the state of Upachara Samadhi or Aksa Samadhi. But we need to know, when we do investigation, at least one time a day, we have to rest our mind into this kind of samadhi. So at least we have to be able to get into the state where we can rest our mind, where we can recharge our batteries, or where we can focus our mind again so that it can go and continue with the work. Without this, our investigation of the things will be very unfruitful. That means when you are in the kitchen and do some kitchen work, you have to cut up vegetables and you have a knife that is blunt, you will not do anything with the vegetables. You cannot cut them up because the knife is blunt. And so is the mind. If we cannot sharpen our mind, and we can only sharpen it with giving it a bit of concentration, with resting it for a while, at least I say 10 to 15 minutes in the Upachara Samadhi, then our mind will not be sharp enough to be able to do the work. Like the knife that is blunt will not be able to do the work of cutting the vegetables. So, before we start with investigation, and that's why I say it's a precondition before we can start investigation, first to get our mind calm. Do not forget this. It is important. Do not really forget this. First we have to get the mind calm before we do some investigation. Now, investigation itself. We have only 5 khandhas to investigate. Whatever exists in this whole universe, the Lord Buddha teaches us, exists within this 6-foot-long body. That means the only thing that we have to investigate if we want to understand this universe is this body or the 5 khandhas. One of the khandhas is the body itself, it's the material form of the body. Another khandha is a group, is Vedana, feeling. There are 2 kinds of feeling. One is the bodily feeling and one is mental feeling. There are 3 kinds of feelings. One is a pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling. Then the 3rd khandha, or the 3rd group, is the group of memory and associations. With memory and associations we have a lot of things. Most of the time it is running in the background. It associates things with labels, it associates things with meaning, and so on, and so on. This is called also in Pali sanya, memory, associations. You can also call it labels. If you call a tree, then the word tree is a label or symbol for the nature of the tree. Sankhara is thoughts, views, opinions. This is the 4th group. And the 5th group is vijnana, consciousness. Just being aware that something comes or something comes within contact of our senses. So, this is vijnana. When we start investigation with the first group, and that is the body. We have to understand the body. When we investigate the body, we need, of course, to investigate bodily feelings as well. because it's a part of the body. Pain, for instance, is a bodily feeling. So sooner or later, and that can be while we're training our samadhi, we have to investigate pain. Pain, what is the nature of pain? You really have to ask yourself. When you sit for an hour, maybe pain does not arise. When you sit for 2 hours, maybe little pain arises. When you sit for 3 hours, strong pain will arise. And then you have to face pain. Then you have to investigate pain. What is pain? Where is the pain? This is part of investigation. Investigating pain is taking our object of concentration from when we are in samadhi, and that is the only investigation we are allowed to do while we are in samadhi, when the pain becomes so strong that we cannot actually focus anymore on the word Buddha or on the breath. Then we start investigating pain. We go with our concentration to the point of pain and observe it the same way as we observe the breath. Or if we observe the Buddha. We observe how it is. Is it point-wise? Is it an area? Is it constant? Or is it fluctuating? Is it anicca or anatta or dukkha? Is it impermanent? Is it arising and ceasing? Is it changing? This is anicca. Is it anatta? That doesn't belong to me. That is not myself. This is not me. Or dukkha, that means, does it produce discontent, dissatisfaction, and suffering? We can investigate pain in these 3 manners, or we can investigate where does it arise. Where does the physical pain arise, or where does the mental pain arise? Because in the beginning of investigating pain, we do not know that there are 2 kinds of pain, that there is physical pain and that there is mental pain. Because they are all put together. They are all in one thing. All what we see is pain. So we have to separate it out. We have to really to understand pain. What is it? What is the physical aspect of the pain and what is the mental aspect of the pain? The mental aspect of the pain, if our mind is not sharp, it will not catch it. The mental aspect of the pain is the reaction towards the pain, towards the physical pain. And it first starts with, I don't want this. And the second thing, why has it not gone? And the third thing, this is too much, I have to get up. This is the mental reaction towards the pain. And that mental reaction is normally much bigger than the physical part of the pain. So, we have to separate these 2 kinds of pain when we do the investigation. So, the first thing can be, as I said before, we locate the pain, we see if it's point-wise, if it's sharp, or if it's slight, or if it's an area, if it's constant, if it's changing, and when we observe the pain, we will see that it has its height and it has its lows. So it's changing constantly. It's changing in accordance with the law of anicca. It arises and ceases. It has arisen. Before we didn't have pain, and after that we will not have any more pain. So it is anicca. Then as a second thing we can do and locate the pain. Where is the pain? Is it in the body? What part of the body is it? Is it on the skin, or is it in the flesh, or is it in the bone, or is it in the sinews? Or is it in the muscles, or where is it? Locate the pain. And then ask yourself, so if the pain and the skin, or the flesh, or the sinews, or the muscles, or the bone are equal to the pain, why can pain arise and cease? If pain can arise and cease, then our flesh and our sinews, our bones have to arise and cease with it. So, pain must be something different from the muscles or from the skin or from the flesh or from the bones. We have to see that. We have to understand this. That this is not really happening inside that. It cannot be the flesh, it cannot be the bones, it cannot be the sin. So we have to see that. We really have to go into the pain and really investigate the pain until we see and understand very clearly. If we decide one time, sooner or probably later, to go through the pain and to see the true nature of the pain, then we have to sit through the pain. But we do not sit through the pain by bearing the pain or enduring the pain, but we sit through by investigating the pain, and then at that time our mindfulness has to be extremely sharp. We cannot allow the mind to react towards the pain. We cannot let the mind go out and do something else, because then we are going to lose. We have to understand how the pain is produced. So when we sit and endure the pain, then this is not helpful. We have to investigate the pain to its fullest. We have to sit through the pain and investigate until the mind tells us, or until the heart tells us, if I'm going to sit any longer, I'm going to die. And then at that point, we have to be willing to die. And once we are 100%, and I say 100%, determined to die, or let's see what is going to die, then the next moment will be the relief of the pain. There will be no pain. And we see that actually the biggest source of the pain was the heart. The heart that didn't like the physical reaction, or that didn't like the changes in the body, has produced this pain. This pain to make us get up, to make us doing something else. This is the power of avijja. The power of avijja, or avijja, uses the pain to make us stop practicing. And we have to understand it. We have to understand the power of avijja that can produce this kind of pain. And it normally, and it always produces it, if you are not following the rules, or if you are not following the commands of avijja. If you start meditating, and if you start meditating for an hour, and then after an hour, avijja tells us this is enough. We just change our postures, or we drink something, or we read a book, or we want just something to do something else. If you continue to go on and continue to go on, and not following the commands of avijja, then it's going to give us troubles. Then it's going to give us problems. Either the problems by doubt, this kind of meditation doesn't bring anything, this kind of meditation is worthless, or by sleepiness, then we fall into to sleep, or we doze off, or we nod off, or whatever. Or it produces pain. And then we say, this is enough, I've done enough, and we get up. But if we follow the commands, or if we follow these signs of avijja, then we don't get anywhere near to the truth. So we have to face it up, sooner or probably later. We have to take that in mind. We really have to understand the true nature of the pain. Who is producing this pain? And this is the second wonder that we can experience within our practice. This is the wonder when from one moment we are facing the greatest pain, and in the next moment there's nothing left of And then we see that there is a small irritation in the body. And that's what it was. A small irritation in the body, like a fly in an elephant. The fly is the irritation in the body, and the elephant that stamps on our head or that stamps on our body is the heart that produces this pain. And if we do that, if we do it 1 time or 2 times or 10 times, we will understand that avijja is in charge of producing this pain. So, once we understand it, we do not fall for this kind of trick anymore. We just know when pain is coming, okay, I know, I understand. But before, in order to do it, we have to investigate. We have to see the results taking place within our own heart. If you sit for 3 hours, when you sit and ride in a car, there's no problem sitting for 3 hours. But when you sit in meditation, after 1 hour or after 2 hours, you cannot bear the pain anymore. Isn't it strange? When you sit in the airplane, you sit in the airplane for 11 hours. No problem. But here, when we sit in practice, after 1 hour is too much. 2 hours is more than enough. And 3 hours we have certainly to stop. It was enough. But in order for our practice to be really fruitful or to really bring fruits, we have to find the hindrances that are laying in the backyard. So, we have to go to the backyard to produce it, to see it, to understand it. That means we have to go through long stretches of meditation. Some people just sit through the night. They sit from 6 o'clock in the evening till the next day, 6 o'clock in the morning. And they will face a pain. The first pain is just like a pain of death. The second pain is like the pain that comes after 6 hours. It's like the pain where your whole body is on fire. And the third phase of pain is like the body breaks up, is torn apart. Every element is torn apart. And that is the biggest pain. This is the third phase of pain. Once you go through that, once you understand that, you don't have any trouble going through death. There is no fear of death anymore, because you have gone through the pain and you've seen who produced it, and you've seen the results, and you see the one who does this magic. So, at the time of the death, we are completely or fully prepared for it. So you cannot pull our attention away from what we want to do. But in order to do that, you need a good portion of mindfulness. If your mind jumps here and there, if your mind cannot stay on the object observed for 3 or 4 minutes, and that is even long for most of you, then it's not worthwhile starting with this investigation where you have to be able to control the mind for 2 or 3 hours. So this is one part of the investigation. This is investigation of pain. The other one is investigation of the body. In the body, we start with the outside body. We start, looking at the body, looking at the hair of the body, the skin, the teeth. What else is? Hair of the body, nails, skin, and hair itself. Do I have all the 5? Do I have all the 5? Hair of the body, the hair, teeth and skin and nails. Yes. So these are the 5. We start investigating them. And we start investigating them in the same way as I said with the pain. we start looking at the object. When we start body investigation, we try to get an inside view of what the hair is looking like. We just take one hair, and we can take the whole hair of the head, or we can take the hairs of the body and look at one piece, or look at the whole and see and look how it looks like. And when you look at it, it is not different from any kind of weed that you see, dried up weed that you see in the fields. It has a structure. Just like anything in the nature, it has a structure. So what is it, what we so much like about this hair? Or what it is, what we so much like about the skin? What it is, what we so much like about the teeth? When we look at it, look at the teeth and the stone, they are not much different. But when we see a stone, we think this is a stone. And now if somebody hits the stone, we are not concerned with it. But if somebody hits our teeth, we are very much concerned with it. When our hair gets dirty, we are very much concerned about it, so we wash it. And we have to wash it, and we have to cut it all our life. If you do not wash it for 3 or 4 weeks, you feel it's very, very unpleasant. And ask yourself, where is all the dirt coming from? Is it coming from inside? Yes. Is it coming from outside? Yes. So we have to take care of this body constantly. We have to wash the hair, we have to wash the body, because all the things that come out of this body are things that we do not like to see, that we do not like to smell. Whatever goes into the body, we like to see and we like to smell. There's a little misconception, or whatever goes into the body is nice and smelling fine. Whatever comes out of the body is ugly or tasteless or smelling horrible. So this body is nothing else than a factory that turns everything that is nice and smelling into something that is ugly and horrible. But we don't have the view. When we look in the mirror, we do not have this view of this body. We just see something that we want to see. We want to see our hair that is nice and light, or stylish, or whatever. And we want to see our skin that is nice and smooth, and so on, and so on. We do not want to see what is inside. So, if we want to see what is inside, we make a tour inside of this body. We rip off the skin, and then all the attraction, if you next time look in the mirror, then rip off the skin, and look at it, and then you then ask yourself, is this nice? Is this beautiful? And I doubt that anybody will say, this is beautiful, say this is attractive, and say this is nice. We all just so completely disgusted that we immediately close up our skin again and fall for the illusion that comes back into our sights. Yes, this is nice. This is a nice smile. Take off the skin and where's the smile? Take off the skin and where's the woman and where's the man? There's just flesh, pus, blood, sinews, bones. That's all what it is. So, what are we after? We love this body so much. We care about this body so much. Then when it dies, we are weeping our tears and we are trying to hold on to this life forever. We cannot let go. We cannot let go of this body because we have actually never looked at it. We actually have never looked at it how it really looks, how it really is. So, this is the first start of our investigation, to look at the true nature of the body, to look or investigate where is all this dirt coming from, or are the things as I think they are. It is a investigation of the body is a way to disillusion ourselves, to take away the illusion from this body, the illusion or the views and sights we have of this body, and see what it really is. This is our aim for investigation, to disillusion ourselves. Because we have this illusion, and when you next time look in the mirror, you see this illusion coming up. Oh, I'm looking nice, I'm looking fine, I have to shave my beard a little bit so that I look like the way I want to look. But what has it to do with us? What has this outer view to do with us? If you are tall or small, if you are big or skinny, if you are fat or so on, what has it to do with us? What has it to do with our heart? It's like, people who have a Mercedes and people who have a Volkswagen or Fiat, they look just at their big Mercedes and they think they are big. And the one who has a Fiat thinks that he is poor. It's nothing else. The driver who is either driving the Mercedes or who is driving the Fiat is a person. And it's nothing else than our chitta. The chitta is the driver of the car. The chitta is the driver of this body. We have to understand that the chitta and the body are two different things. We really have to catch that. The body is the body and the chitta is the chitta. Without the driver in the car putting in the keys and turning it on and going on the accelerator or putting in the gear or turning it left or turning right, the car would not make anything. It will not move a bit. And it's the same thing with the chitta. If the chitta is completely quiet, and we can experience this in Appana Samadhi, the body doesn't do a thing. It doesn't move. It just is completely still. Extremely still. It is the chitta that moves the body. Every movement that we make, every movement with a finger, every movement with a foot, every movement with our head, this is caused by the chitta, who is distracted and wants to see this, or distracted to see that. So we have to understand, the chitta and the car, or the chitta and the body, are two different things. And this is the aim of our investigation of the body. This we have to understand. The second thing we have to understand, that actually this body is pretty much disgusting. But about this, I'll talk the next time. So, for the moment, let me stop this talk. And if there are some questions, you might ask them.
So, I have a question. When I am doing now trying to get into more samadhi, so if I start to feel so much pain around after 1 hour, so what I have to do better? Just try to continue focusing my mind in the object, so I can go to the pain, try to listen.
You can do that. I would do it only if the pain becomes too distracting.
Yeah.
If you still can continue on your object, then continue with your object. But if the pain becomes too distracting, then focus on the pain and investigate pain. Yeah. Until you really understand.
Yeah, because sometimes I feel that pain is mixed with thoughts. It's like, distracts me, the pain, and then my mind starts to wander.
That's why you have to then focus on the pain and investigate the way I said.
Yeah, so my mind is still trying to concentrate.
Yeah. But if the pain is not too big, then you can stay with your investigation. You stay with your samadhi, the breath, or Buddha. Because normally you won't find... If you investigate the body or investigate something else, you will never actually encounter pain. That is very interesting. The mind is so busy doing something else, investigating the body or investigating feeling or investigating so, that it can never experience the pain. The pain always only arises when we do samadhi, when we sit concentrated and only at one object for a long time. Then the background of the activity of the mind, starts to produce this pain. But if you sit in, for instance, if you sit investigation for 4 hours, there is no pain. Well, there's just little discomfort.
You're talking about investigating the body?
Investigating the body or investigating feeling or investigating something else. Because there the mind is active. It's like with the Buddha, it's active. When the mind is active, Buddha, repeating the word Buddha, you cannot do anything else. But Buddha is just one word, so the mind doesn't have too much of distraction. When we investigate, we have a lot of distractions, so the mind is not aware of the pain that is going on. And it doesn't make any fuss of it. But it will produce something else. When we investigate the body, it will produce a lot of hate, or anger, or disgust. That is also very unpleasant. That only tells us when we do investigation of the body, and these feelings come up, then we really do the right thing. The kilesas won't make a move on us if we are just playing around. But the moment we undermine their power, they will let us know. They will let us know with doubts or with pain or with fear.
But I'm understanding that you're saying that if you're meditating and the pain, that one way to get away from the pain is to investigate the body, because you're now busying the mind and it doesn't have time to make the pain.
Yes.
It's sort of like the same principle as the Buddha.
Yes.
It's just you're filling the mind with something else, active, and that blocks it?
It blocks it, but you have to understand investigation is there for understanding the truth, not just for getting the mind distracted.
No, I realize
Yes.
that, but I'm just saying, it seemed, I just want to be sure that I've got you right here.
Yes, investigate the pain. But if you have already severe pain, when investigating, it will not go away. But when we do investigation, just when we sit there and practice and do investigation of the body, pain will not arise because our mind is so busy. But when the pain has arisen, then we investigate pain. But that doesn't mean that the pain goes away.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a subtle distinction.
Yes, a subtle but very important distinction.